It appears that the Overwatch League Off-Season news is starting to slow down, with most teams now having confirmed most of their rosters for the 2020 season. But that's not to say that there haven't been a few moves over the past couple of weeks, which I'll be discussing today. And as a quick heads up, I hope you'll be happy to hear that my university term ends in a week, after which I'll be posting a lot more regularly over the Christmas break, so apologies for the irregular stream of content recently, but that now looks set to end. First up are the Dallas Fuel, who have remained rather quiet over these past few weeks, with most of their rosters seemingly sorted for next season already. However, just last night they announced that they were parting away with their coach Damon. Ahead of 2020, it appears the Fuel are making a few changes around on the coaching staff, with Jane and now Damon departing. I obviously can't comment on Damon's personal ability as a coach, but he certainly accrued a good deal of OWL experience, having worked previously for the LA Valiant and also as a head coach for the Paris Eternal, so I would imagine he'll be getting some work offers even if his most recent teams haven't been too successful. The next team we need to talk about, and the one we're probably going to be discussing the most, are the Florida Mayhem, who after announcing their new arrivals of Yaki and Gangnam Jim, as well as Kuki and Docs on the coaching staff, have now revealed 7 players who will be returning for next season from their 2019 squad. The first of these was Chris. Now it would be fair to say that when the off-season is remembered for a great reaction picture, rather than any standout displays, when his overall performance wasn't great, especially when we look back at the beginning of 2019, where his Lucio play seemed particularly poor, with bad positioning and ult usage that just added to Florida's early struggles. However, whilst I myself may be heavily critical of a player when they're playing badly, I will also give them credit for an improvement, and this has to be said for Chris as we look at his displays towards the end of last season. By no means did he light the world on fire, but he and the rest of the team looked a lot better at the end of 2019, with his weakest areas of positioning and ult usage being vastly improved upon. Considering that he's clearly liked within the org, probably has a key role in their communication, and most likely is on a cheaper contract, it therefore makes complete sense that he's re-signed with the Mayhem for 2020. However, this is certainly a position that on paper they look weak at, and in my opinion they could still improve upon. At the same time, it was also announced that Byron was the next player returning, although he is someone whose return is a bit hard to explain. His time on the stage was split between himself and Hagopun in 2019, and from what I saw, Hagopun looked the better player, and even played more often, even if neither really shone for Florida. Had Byron been in the same situation as Chris, where he looked to be their starter for next year, then I would have been a lot more concerned, but considering he will almost certainly be behind Gangnam Jim and starting at flex support for the Mayhem next season, keeping Byron as a likely cheap backup makes a lot more sense, especially given Florida's previous issues with Hagopun's attitude. Psyplayer is another who will be returning once again on the Mayhem for next season, which comes as no surprise to anyone. Sure, his 2019 didn't live up to what he produced in 2018, but in his defence, the meta for most of last year did not at all play to his strengths, and when he did get more of an opportunity to show off his quality during Stage 4 and Stage 3, he looked a lot more like his dominant self, with the team relying on him a lot more often. It was a no-brainer for Florida to bring him back for 2020, as he's clearly been one of their best players over the past couple of seasons, and has turned into a fan favourite who they might have struggled to replace otherwise. Alongside him at DPS, it was revealed that BQB would be returning as well. While certainly he has not held up to the same calibre as Psyplayer, I personally thought BQB had one of the more consistently solid seasons of those on the Mayhem, with frequently good performances over the first few stages, when most of the team around him struggled, particularly on heroes like Zarya and later on Sombra. With the team bringing in Yaki, who could create a really good partnership with Psyplayer, I think keeping BQB in the squad is a sensible decision, as it gives the team a bit of depth and provides them with a serviceable option should the meta change, or should Yaki or Psyplayer be unavailable for whatever reason. Although that's not to say that their DPS group doesn't have room for improvement, and I'd like to see the addition of another DPS player perhaps. Lastly, from their tank core, it was unveiled that firstly Gargoyle would be coming back for next season. Having grabbed everyone's attention during Stage 4, literally in some cases with his Roadhog, it's a relief to see Florida hanging on to one of their best players from 2019, aside from Psyplayer. I do think it is important that people don't over-exaggerate his value, as I don't think we've seen enough of his full hero pool to say he's one of the best off-tanks in the league. But from what we have seen, he definitely has the potential to be, and as such his return to the Mayhem is good to see for their fans, as they look to finally break out next season. With him, Fate has also been confirmed to be returning in 2020, despite some initial rumours suggesting that he might be on the move. Again, I think this is a smart decision from Florida, so whilst he certainly hasn't hit the heights that he may have demonstrated on the Valiant back during the inaugural season, I think he has been one of the Mayhem's better pieces throughout last season, with some of the things he's been criticised for, like positioning, in actuality I think being more of a problem caused by his teammates at times. There is room for improvement though, and hopefully under the guidance of a former main tank in Kuki, as well as the potential for a shift in the meta, we may see Fate elevate his game to a higher level next year. Florida's last move though was to bring back Karayan, I think that's how you say it. He's a player I don't know much about as he didn't really play, with Fate clearly being recognised as a better option at his position. I assume he's a cheaper backup, and he could give the team some options in different metas, and undoubtedly his prior synergy and experience with Gargoyle helps, but should Fate struggle or decline next season, and I do worry that this is a position that the Mayhem could look quite weak at for 2020, as I can't say I have faith in him stepping up. Just as a quick summary on my thoughts on Florida though, I think bringing back most of their core is probably the right decision, as this was a team that certainly improved and started to look good towards the end of last season, with the key proponents of this success being kept on. Unlike the Spark, who have done something similar, the Mayhem have actually made additions with Yaki and Gangnam Jin, not forgetting Kuki as head coach, which I'm a big fan of, although I do feel this squad still has a few holes and still looks a little weak in certain positions, that if not addressed this off-season, could come back to bite them later on. Moving on from Florida though, the LA Gladiators were another team who have dropped a little bit of news over the past couple of weeks, as last night they caught many off guard by announcing they had signed LH Cloudy. For those who didn't know, LH Cloudy was previously on the Paris Eternal in 2019 and was a member of Finland's Overwatch World Cup team. Early on, it must be said that his Reinhardt performances were somewhat questionable, but I think it would be wrong to entirely judge him based on this period early into the season where Paris was severely struggling. Whilst he shared starting time with Bembes for most of the season, by the end he had cemented himself as a more regular starter and put in some good displays on both Wrecking Ball and Orisa, which certainly shouldn't be overlooked. I don't think he's the best main tank at all, but it is clear that he's joining the Gladiators as a backup that will likely be used as a specialist on a hero like Wrecking Ball perhaps, so I can understand why the team has made this move, especially considering the Finnish synergy he already has with Big Goose and Shaz. However, a bigger point should be made for the fact that the Gladiators still only have 2 DPS players, compared to their 4 tanks and 3 supports. This is an area I believe they definitely need improvement upon still, because it's too risky in my opinion to rely on their performances on Birdring for an entire season without any cover or alternatives available to them, and considering the amazing pool of top tier 2 talent available at DPS, such as Visility and Fisher as well as many others, I'd be astonished if they don't add depth here. The New York Excelsior meanwhile have probably been one of the busier teams over the recent weeks, with firstly in addition to their coaching staff with the arrival of Why Not. He certainly gathered a lot of experience having been on the Seoul Dynasty in 2019 as a coach, and when he left them at the beginning of this off-season, the Dynasty were very complimentary of his effort and work ethic. So whilst I cannot attest to his quality, it is clear that the Excelsior are getting a driven and experienced coach who should benefit them. Outside of their coaching staff though, New York have announced 2 more player moves regarding their squad. The first being the signing of WhoRU. His name is one that if you've only started recently watching the Overwatch League, you may not recognise, but he's certainly been on the grind for the past few years. He's only just turned 18 and therefore just become eligible to join the league, but in the lead up to this moment he's accrued many accolades, primarily as a key member of the Fusion University, and even before that on Lunatic High. He's a very promising talent who has proven his quality on heroes like Genji and Tracer, so I'll be excited to see what he can do. My only worry is that he's joined the Excelsior, a team that has already plenty of DPS talent, and arguably has wasted the talents for a similar sort of player in the past with Flower, so whilst I am excited to see what he can do on stage, I'm certainly remain cautious. The other player move is a lot more saddening, however, as it addresses the departure of Pine, who has decided to retire and stream for the org full time. This news was very sad to see, as Pine became a fan favourite player in 2018 with his wicked hit scan skills on heroes like McCree and Widowmaker, creating many a highlight. He never really got an opportunity to show off his talents and fun personality last season due to the metas, as well as the other DPS options on New York, which is such a shame. However, I hope he really enjoys his time streaming, and is able to make a big success of it. To liven up the mood though, I'll quickly talk about the last 2 teams that have news for us at this time, the Paris Eternal and the Washington Justice. Firstly with Paris, they've added yet another player this off-season, this time it's Smex, who many of you will recognise from Team UK's Overwatch World Cup side. Being a Brit myself, of course I'm delighted to see him enter the league, and I expect him to break in quickly due to his past connections with Cruz. He is not someone who hasn't proven his quality either, after grinding in contenders and putting on back-to-back consistently strong displays at the World Cup, both on heroes like D.Va as well as Sigma. His most recent performance, arguably alongside KSP, was one of the better ones from what was otherwise a rather underwhelming UK effort, so I think the Eternal are making a good Western pickup here, especially as they have now covered themselves for the 2 games at the start of the season, where Hanbin will be unavailable, whilst at the same time creating a healthy competition hopefully between the pair. Washington meanwhile will hope they've enhanced their coaching staff by bringing on board Barney, who was released as a player not too long ago from Houston. It would be fair to say that from his performances, it didn't look likely he'll receive another playing opportunity, but given his experience and game understanding having specialised at main support, I think his new role as an individual coach should suit him a lot, and I hope he does well with it on the Justice in 2020. For now though, that's all I've got in the way of Overwatch League Off-Season news, and if you have made it this far I'd like to thank you for watching. As I said at the beginning of this video, my university term ends in just a week's time, after which I hope to return to the more regular stream of content. So if you have enjoyed, please like, subscribe and follow me on Twitter so you don't miss out. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.